Stuff. Please welcome to the show America's accountant, Mr. Dan Geltrude, coming to us from Nutley, New Jersey. Dan, I don't know how these governors of these states that are seeing these outflows, you probably throw in New York, New Jersey, and Illinois into that pile, look at themselves in the mirror when you get numbers like this, because it seems to me to be pretty straightforward, actually very straightforward, almost commonsensical, but somehow they're not getting the picture.
No, they're not getting the picture because nothing is changing. High-tax states are not doing anything in order to stop this. And let's be clear in terms of the description here. The trend in California is actually not migration. It's evacuation. That's how people are leaving there. And if you look at what's going on in Florida in terms of Florida's increased population, that's not luck. It's not the weather. Some of it might be the weather, but it's really about policy, Scott. You know, people are fleeing these high-tax states like their wallets depend on it, and that's because it does. But, you know, I'm going to go one step beyond this, step outside my financial background and tell you the impact of this is not just, you know, states like California, New York, and New Jersey are losing a lot of money, and that is going into states like Texas and to Florida. It's also political because this evacuation or migration significantly impacts the Electoral College, right? Because as the population moves and you start to look at where population is, that leads to electoral votes, which has huge impact on presidential elections, Scott. So it matters on many levels.
Yeah, you know, and then there's another thing I keep talking about too, is that as these people flee these states, and I was in one, I was in Illinois, you're in New Jersey, right? And as that happens, you know, you've got this overhead, the overhead from the municipal government, the state and local governments that needs to be taken care of with tax dollars. But when they have less people to tax, that becomes a problem. So where do they go? Well, the natural migration for your local, state and local leaders to go for more tax money is real estate tax. Because that's the last store of wealth in a lot of these states, especially, say, Illinois. I have firsthand knowledge because I do a radio show in Illinois after this show later today, and inevitably we'll talk about real estate tax because they just came out with their new taxes. And in some of these poor, lower to middle class towns that surround this, the city of Chicago, these real estate taxes have gone up 100%, 130% in some cases. Now, I know New Jersey is also one of the top real estate tax places, but this is the last store of wealth for these state and local governments to go to try to be able to prop up all of the overheads that they've got with these big bloated governments, right? So these real estate taxes are never going to go down.
No, and let me just add on to that what you said about New Jersey. It's not one of the top. We are the top state in the union for real estate taxes. So, you know, telling me about how that's out of control is preaching to the choir here. Look, when you lose taxpayers, Scott, you're losing your tax base. Right now, the easy answer or the go-to is, well, we'll just tax the rich. Well, the rich vote with their feet. Money is mobile, and they'll just leave. So it becomes a quandary because lowering the cost of government and trying to cut costs, of course, that's not on the table in these states. So what you have is states like Texas and Florida are growing because they're competing for people, right? They're putting these things out there to draw people in, and it's working. And let me also go back to in states like New Jersey, it's not just keep pounding away at real estate taxes. They use these terms like fees, and you start adding all these costs onto everything else, whether it's hotels and to get this license or that license, we'll just keep increasing it. But at some point, Scott, people just can't afford to live in these states, and you got to go elsewhere.
And look, and I just did some research over the weekend. You know, we're not seeing a bunch of houses in New York after Mamdani one hit the market. But what's happening are the people that already live there are just moving, are going to buy houses in Tennessee, Florida, and Texas, and then are going to spend 186 days in those jurisdictions so that they can be taxpayers in Florida instead of New York. So you might not see a lot of real estate hit the market, but you're going to see a lot of businesses leave, and you're going to see a lot of people start to use other states as their domicile. And that's absolutely happening in places like Chicago. Look, I'm from Chicago, but I'm now down here in Nashville, Tennessee. I mean, we have no state tax, just like Florida. I mean, you're exactly right. We're competing for people, and people are taking notice, and they're coming from Illinois. I mean, we don't want everybody from California because I don't want them to turn Tennessee into California. But it's interesting to see how I can see what these governors of these states like California, Illinois, New Jersey, and New York can't see. It seems to me to be just common sense. 10 seconds to you before we got to jump.
Here's what I'll tell you, Scott, is that people follow opportunity, not ideology. So that's what these states should keep in mind as far as what their policies are.
I've never had anybody put it that perfectly. That's awesome. Thank you very much. A great way to end the segment. Dan Geltrude, America's Accountant, Nutley, New Jersey. Thanks for being on the show. Happy December to you, Dan. I'll see you again next week.